Hey guys, this is Graphs Day 4. We're going to be going over the topic 7 notes that are attached to the Google Classroom assignment today. Feel free to print those out if you want to maintain your math notebook. Otherwise, just go ahead and have them on another tab or another window so that you can toggle back and forth. I really suggest that you be keeping a math spiral or a composition book to be taking your math notes in from these videos. You've got to have something to write down with because I want you doing all of the problems with me as you see them done. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to replicate them on homework or on a quiz. So anyways, this is Friday's lesson. And on Monday, we will have a quiz over pie charts. And then we're going to be moving into a different unit a little early. And we're going to finish up the year with negative numbers. So move things around just a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Number 1 says, the pie chart shows the number of primary school students who attend classes at a tuition center. Each pupil only takes one subject at the center. And your first question says, what are the least and the most popular subjects taken up by the pupils who attend classes at the center? And we can tell that just by looking at the graph. Obviously, math has the big chunk, science has the little chunk. So our answers would be math and science for most and least popular. By the way, guys, if you are enjoying these problems and want to just stop the video and work ahead on your own, you are more than welcome to do that as long as you come back and you make sure that you correct any mistakes that you made. That's one of the advantages of online school, isn't it? So next one, letter B says, if 150 pupils attend Chinese classes, what is the total number of pupils attending classes in all the other subjects? Okay, so we have 150 kids attending Chinese, and let's just use a little unitary method to figure out how many kids attend all of the other classes. Now, I want you to notice that in our word problem here, it says other subjects. So it's not asking me the total number of pupils in the center, it's asking me how many other pupils make up all of the other classes. So using unitary method, we'll assign 150 pupils to 25%. We'll take that down to 1% by dividing both sides by 25. Here's what we're doing here. And then we want to find for 75% to be able to properly answer our question. So we're going to multiply 6 times 75, and that's going to give us 450 pupils. All right, one thing that we can see here is now that we know how many pupils take Chinese and how many pupils take all of the other classes, we now know how many kids are in the center altogether, and that's going to be 600. So our whole, or 100%, is 600. Okay, if 114 fewer pupils attend Chinese than mathematics classes, how many pupils attend mathematics classes? Well, this is just a simple addition problem, so let's add 114 to 150, and we'll get 264. All right, moving right along. Can you see how we are building on the information we've already gathered to find new information? Letter D says the number of pupils attending mathematics classes is 1.5 times that of English classes. How many pupils attend English class? Okay, so I want you to notice something really quick. On these notes, you do have a right angle symbol on the chunk for Chinese classes, but not on the English classes. And I want you to take note of that because English almost looks like it could be 25%, but since we don't see that symbol, we don't want to assume that. Because our assumption will be wrong. So let's do some division here. We're going to divide 264 by 1.5 to find out how many kids attend English classes. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my divisor a whole number by moving my decimal place over. And then I do the same in my dividend here. And my problem becomes 2,640 divided by 15. And then we can go ahead and do that division. And we'll bring down our 4. And we'll go ahead and work this out. And you guys should be doing this as well, not just watching. And we're going to get 176. So we'll go ahead and write 176 in for our English classes. Feel free to pause the video anytime that you need a little extra time to catch up on note taking. All right, what fraction of pupils at the center attend science classes? Well, in order to find the fraction of the pupils attending science classes, I am going to need to add up the students attending all of the other classes. We already know what our whole is, so we're going to add the other students up, and then we're going to subtract that from our whole, and then we're going to find a fraction. Okay, so let's do that. We'll add 176 plus 264 plus 150, and we get 590. Okay, so obviously we have 10 students left over that chose science. And if we make that into a fraction, we want to set it up like this. We're going to find 10 out of 600. So guys, remember that fraction bar means out of, so that'll help you when you're setting up fractions. So your final answer should look something like that. We'll definitely always still simplify and get 1/60. Okay, number 2, moving right along. In a group of 20 friends, each contributed $5 to organize a Christmas gathering. The pie chart shows how the total amount of money was spent. Okay, so if I have 20 friends each contributing $5, the first piece of information I can gather is that my whole is going to equal $100. Okay, so I just know that right off the bat. So let's use that going forward. On which single item was the most money spent? Well, obviously food. My next question says how much money was spent on both food and drinks. Remember that my whole was 100. 2/5 of the money was spent on food. So let's multiply 2/5 times 100, and we're going to get $40 spent on food. 1/4 of my money was spent on drinks, and I know that because there is a convenient little right angle symbol in drinks. So I'll find 1/4 of 100 and get 25, and then I'm going to add them together to get $65 spent on food and drinks. Letter C says how much more money was spent on food and drinks. Well, we just found those values, so now we can just subtract. $40 minus $25 equals $15. Letter D says, what fraction of the money was spent on party games? Oh, look at that. I already wrote it down. All right, well, I didn't mean to do that. But let's go ahead and find that answer. So I've got 2/5, I've got 3/10, and I've got 1/4. Looks to me like I need to find a common denominator and then subtract. So let's change all of these fractions into equivalent fractions of 20ths. So my 2/5 spent on food becomes 8/20, 3/10 becomes 6/20, and 1/4 becomes 5/20. When I add those up, I'm going to get 19/20. I will subtract 19/20 from my whole, which is 20/20, and get 1/20. Now don't get confused here. Remember, I know I said my whole was $100, but that is my amount. I am working with fractions here, and so I need to use some fraction to be able to figure out what this portion is. And so 20/20 is what equals $100. Okay, letter E says the amount of money spent on presents is the same as the total amount of money spent on 2 of the other items. Which are these 2 items? Well, there's the answer. Didn't mean to show that so quickly, but let's figure this out. So we changed everything to 20ths earlier, right? And we're looking for 2 items that together are going to equal 6/20. Well, when I look at drinks, which is 5/20, and party games, which is 1/20, I can see that adding those together is going to give me the same amount as presents. And so that's my answer for that one. All right, let's take a look at question number 3, and then we're going to be done with this lesson. Question number 3 says, the pie chart shows how a newlywed couple spent how much a newlywed couple, well, this is a confusingly worded question, isn't it? The pie chart shows how a newlywed couple spent on their wedding and on their new flat. Okay, well, I would add the word money in there, but whatever. Okay, so let's take a look. Letter A says that the couple spent $2,000 more on furniture than on electrical appliances. What was the total amount of money spent on all of the items shown in the chart? Okay, so let's just take a look at what we've got here. We have 15% spent on our furniture, and we have 11% spent on electrical appliances. Well, what's my difference there in percentage, right? 15% minus 11% is going to equal 4%. So we can use unitary method to solve this right now. Okay, so let's do that. 4% equals $2,000, and then we'll divide both of those by 4 to get it down to 1%. 1% is going to equal $500. And I want to find the total amount, so I will find for 100%. $500 times 100%, add up all of those zeros, is going to equal $50,000. Whew, you guys better start saving right now. All right, so $50,000 is my 100% in this case. How much more did they spend on the wedding dinner than on all of the other wedding expenses? Okay, well, we already, actually, you know, we've already used unitary method, and we found that 1% equaled $500, didn't we? Okay, so let's just use that in a second. All right, so wedding dinner was 30%, and other, we don't know. Let's figure it out. So let's see, we're going to subtract from 100%. So I'm going to add all these up. 30%, oops. 30% plus 25%, which would equal 55%, plus 15% would equal 70%, plus 11%, which would equal 81%, plus 10%, which would equal 91%. So 91% subtracted from 100% is going to equal 9%. So let's find the difference there. 30% minus 9% equals 21%. So they spent 21% more, but we want to know how much more they spent. So let's use unitary and find that. So 1% was $500. 21% is going to be 500 times 21, or $10,500. Okay, our next question says, the amount spent on the flat was only the initial down payment. Yikes. The couple would still need to pay $625 monthly for the next 20 years. Okay, what is the total cost of the flat? Well, my friends, we are going to multiply 625 times 12, which is $7,500. Okay, but now that's 12 months, isn't it? They're going to be paying for 20 years. So now we need to multiply that yearly amount by 20 years, which is going to equal $150,000. But that's not really the total cost, is it? Because now we've got to go and we've got to add in that amount of money that they put down, which was $5,000. And so let's see, 10%, we found that by using our unitary. 1%, remember, was $500. 10% right here spent on the flat is $5,000. Now we've got to add those. So 150,000 plus 5,000 equals $155,000. Now I hate to tell you guys this, but those numbers aren't very realistic. Unfortunately, in Fort Collins, it probably costs a little bit more than $155,000 for an apartment. But moving right along. Okay, if 30% of the money spent on electrical appliances was used to buy a television set, how much did the set cost? Okay, well, let's first figure out how much money they spent on electrical appliances, because what I'm looking for here is 30% of that amount of money, okay? So again, 1% is $500, so let's multiply that by 11 and figure out how much money they spent on electrical appliances. So 500 times 11 would be $5,500. Now I want to figure out what 30% of this amount is, okay? Because part of that 30% was what they spent on a television set. So let's just set that up as a fraction. 30% of 5,500, I can definitely just, oops. What am I doing? Let's start over. Let's cross cancel here and here. And let's cross cancel here and here. So then I'm left with 3 times 550, which would equal 1,650. Okay, letter E, last one. 40% of the money spent on renovations was used to make wall cabinets and cupboards. Now this is a similar problem as the last one. 40% of what was spent on renovations. So I'm really looking for 40% of 25%. How much did these wall cabinets and cupboards cost altogether? I bet you're thinking in your mind, I could probably find 40% of 25% of my whole. I could do that if I wanted to. You can solve it that way. You should get the same thing. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find out how much total money they spent on renovations first. So I'm going to multiply $500 times 25%, which is right here. and $12,500 is how much total money they spent on renovations. Okay, but they spent 40% of that to make wall cabinets and cupboards. So that was a chunk out of their renovation budget. So now let's find 40% of $12,500. And we'll set that up like this, and then we can do some cross canceling. And once we've multiplied that out, we've got 4 times 1,250. Don't cancel out too many zeros here, guys, or you won't get the right number. And we're going to get $5,000. Okay, so you should try topic 7, number 5 in the Google Forms. I think I have it set up to give you guys immediate feedback whether you got those right or not. These are tough problems, so they're kind of this is a little bit of an extension lesson. It's hopefully making you think a little bit harder. But your homework for today is not the rest of this packet. Your homework is workbook exercise 19. So you should work on that. After you've completed the work in your workbook, go ahead and submit your answers then through the Google Forms. And just make sure you read the questions carefully. The way the formatting is, it's a little bit different than your workbook. So I think you guys are well equipped to try to transfer that knowledge, but just, let me know if you have any questions. All right, that's it for today.